Every afternoon, at exactly 4 p.m., the children waited by the gates of the community park. They didn't know my name, but they all knew my face. I was their teacher, their guide, their friend for 1 hour each day. I would arrive just before the bell rang, carrying a bag full of bright, colorful materials, ready to teach them new things. But there was something else that kept me coming to the park every day. Something I couldn't ignore. I had started this job as a way to escape my own world. A world full of silence and hidden lies. At home, things were not as peaceful as they seemed. I had a husband who was always busy and distant. It wasn't that he didn't love me. It was just that he was never really present. He was busy with his own life, his own interests. He would tell me, "I'm working for us, for our future." But the truth was, his focus was on everything except us. So I found peace in the children. Their simple joy, their laughter, and the way they looked at me with trust, made me feel like I was important again. But that peace was fragile, because something I didn't want to face was slowly creeping into my life. Something I never imagined would happen. As days passed, I noticed the distance between my husband and me growing wider. He would come home late, exhausted, and barely speak to me. The words "I'm sorry" became less frequent, and the warmth in his voice had disappeared. I could tell that something was wrong, but he would never open up. Instead, he would turn his attention to his phone, to meetings, and to everything except me. One evening, while he was at work, I saw a message on his phone that changed everything. It was a message from a woman. The words were innocent at first, just a casual conversation about a business meeting. But there was something in the way they talked to each other that made my heart sink. It felt different. Too friendly. Too familiar. I told myself not to overthink it. After all, it could have been harmless, right? But the truth is, I couldn't shake the feeling that something more was going on. Every day, I found myself waiting for him to come home. But when he did, there was nothing. No warmth. No love. I kept pushing the thoughts to the back of my mind, telling myself that everything would be okay. But deep inside, I knew that things were falling apart. One evening, as I walked to the park, I was met by a familiar face, David. He was one of the parents of the children I taught. I had seen him a few times, but we had never spoken much before. That day, as I was sitting by the park, he sat down next to me. We started talking, and it was so easy. He listened to me. He understood me. For the first time in a long time, I felt seen. We exchanged stories about our lives, our struggles, and our dreams. I didn't realize how much I had been longing for someone to talk to, someone who wasn't distant or busy. David was kind, funny, and attentive. He didn't make me feel invisible the way my husband did. For the first time, I felt a connection to someone who genuinely seemed to care about me. That evening, as we parted ways, I couldn't help but feel something stirring in my heart. It wasn't love, not yet. But it was something more than I had felt in a long time. A part of me was confused. How could I feel this way about someone else when I had made a vow to my husband? The days that followed were filled with confusion. I couldn't stop thinking about David. He would often send me messages, asking how I was doing, and it felt so comforting. But then, I would look at my husband, who was completely unaware of what was happening. I knew what I was doing wasn't right, but I couldn't help it. I had spent so much time feeling neglected and invisible in my own marriage, that the attention from David felt like a lifeline. One afternoon, as I watched the children play in the park, I realized something. I had to make a choice. I couldn't live in this world of secrecy and lies. The children waited for me every day at 4 p.m., but what about my own life? What was I waiting for? I went home that evening and had a long talk with my husband. I told him everything, the loneliness, the pain, and how I had been feeling. I couldn't carry the weight of our broken marriage any longer. My husband was shocked. He didn't know how deep the distance between us had become. We agreed to work on our relationship, to rebuild the trust that had been lost. But it wasn't easy. It was going to take time. And as for David, I knew that the connection I felt with him had to remain just that, a fleeting moment in time. The children at 4 p.m. were waiting for me. And I had to be the teacher they saw, the person who made them feel seen and heard. And for the first time in a long time, I was ready to face the future, one step at a time.